Here's three things we learned from Man United's win against Newcastle. Now, the first thing we need to realise is the important effect of Amrabat on the team. Amrabat is someone who is much happier to play a bit deeper in the midfield and stay closer to the two centre halves compared to the other midfielders that we have. And this allows us to play balls from the goalkeeper straight into Amrabat, which he can then flick onto the side or even take on the half turn. And with Amrabat playing in this deep role, we're allowing Bruno and Mainoo to roam further forward. And since Amrabat is a proper CDM, he likes to play in this position. He's not someone who wants to drift forward, and having him in the team allows us to play with almost like this single pivot. And now this season we've often struggled with playing out from the back, especially from goal kicks and playing with the goalkeeper. More often than not we've tried to go long, and when we do try to play out, there's not really a clear structure or pattern to how we do it. With the introduction of Amrabat, a ball playing CDM, we've clearly seen how that has improved against Newcastle. And it's not just Amrabat who's getting on the ball and helping with this progress. We've seen Bruno Fernandes dropping into that position a few times in that game and collecting the ball from the goalkeeper as well. But I think the introduction of Amrabat is something that we've missed thoroughly all season. And we haven't really seen a player like this since Nemanja Matic. And if you remember from those days, we really improved the way we played whenever Nemanja Matic was on the pitch. Amrabat was a pivotal reason as to why we controlled that game, and this means that we have to be looking to sign a ball-playing holding central midfielder to play alongside Mainoo or Casemiro for next season. Now, the second thing we can notice is how much better we played with the introduction of some of more technical, intricate players. And in particular, we have to talk about the introduction of Amad Diallo. And this young kid not only has very good technical ability, but he also has a high perception of good positional play. And I think that him and Mainoo linked up really well. And in a scenario like this, if Mainoo were to receive the ball, Amad would really know what position to get into in order to play like a 1-2 or something with Mainoo. And we saw that quite a few times in that game. We also saw that when he cuts inside, he not always tries to go for the shot or a long ball. And when I mean by a long ball, I mean like a cross or a pass that's lofted into the air. For that first goal, he cut inside and played a through ball on the ground. Now, this is something that a lot of our players cannot do, and is one of the most effective techniques that you can have. Because whenever we get into these positions, as I said, we always go for the shot or a cross or something that ends up with a ball in the air. But with the ball in the air, obviously, it takes more time and is harder to control, which means that it's easier for defenders to steal the ball off you. But if you can play quick passes on the ground, it makes it so much easier for the recipient of the ball to take it under their control and do something with it. And that's exactly what we saw with Mainoo's goal today. And not only did we see good link up between Mainoo and Amad, but we also saw a much better version of Bruno Fernandes, something that reminded me of his older self. He looks so much more fluid in this game, so much more refreshed. And I think that 2 game break actually may have helped him. I think we did really well in finding the right player in the right amount of space and being able to unlock Newcastle in that way. I still do think there's some room for improvement in and around the final third, and I think that today we really missed some sort of false nine striker who could hold up the ball and link up the play. I think Martial is the kind of player who'd be perfect in a game like this. Unfortunately, Martial does have a lot of issues with injuries and consistency, so I'd definitely be looking in the transfer window for a player who matches Anthony Martial's profile exactly. Now, this game reminds me of a game we had 2 seasons ago when we had a terrible season with Ralf Rangnick and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer getting sacked. At the end of that season, our last home game was against Brentford, and we played players like Mata and Matic with Ronaldo and Bruno on the wing. And we saw a much better improved performance that season, arguably the best performance of the whole year. And we played a lot of intricate football by utilising the skill set and technical ability of Mata, Matic, Ronaldo, and Bruno Fernandes. Now, unlike that game, in this game today, a lot of the players that played are most likely players that we can keep for the future. In that game against Brentford, Mata and Matic are already on their way out of the club, whereas players like Amad, Mainoo, Garnacho, Bruno Fernandes are all players that we can keep for the future. And since our manager is staying for the next season, hopefully, we have to build off from this performance. This cannot be just a one-time thing against Newcastle. We need to be looking for these more intricate players rather than those direct players that we've seen us sign for so many years. It might be time to start moving away from the players like Rashford and Maguire and start looking to play with some of these more technical, positionally aware players. But however, it is also very important to have players who can play that direct style of football, as there will be some games where that is vital. But the way that we play today is something that we can build off and play for the majority of the season. So we have to be looking for players who are good at linking up the play and are very good with their positional awareness, which is the third thing that we have to learn from that game. I think so many times we've kept the big name players and started selling the players who no one really talks about. I think if we want to make a change at this football club, we need to keep some of these more unspoken players. It might be a good idea to keep players like Amrabat and Ahmad and someone like Martial. As long as Martial was fit, he would be a good player. Do I think we should keep him? Obviously not, because he's never been available for us. But we need to buy players of that profile, and it might be time to say goodbye to the players who we've seen from the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer reign. I think those are the three major learning points from that game. So let's now go and talk about some of the player ratings. Anand, I'll probably give him a 6.5. His passing was a bit off at times, but otherwise made a couple big saves. Wan-Bissaka maybe a 5.5. Maybe could have done better on that goal. Casemiro probably give him a 7. A much better performance from him, considering he's playing out of position as well. Evans probably 6.5. He did a steady job. Dallo, I'd give him a 6.5 as well. He was quite involved. Amrabat, I'll probably give him an 8. I think he ran that game completely. Mainly was 7.5. I think he took his goal really well and also had a very good game. Fernandez a 7.5. I think he looks like his old self again and he looks much more refreshed. Ahmad a 7. What a silky player. Delightful goal. A delightful watch. And Garnacho and McTominay, I'll probably give them both a 6. Hoyland, you've got to give him a 7 for that goal within the first few minutes of him coming on. Martinez looked pretty good when he was on the pitch as well. I'll give him a 6.5. Rashford and Eriksen, I'll probably give them both a 6. It's very important to learn from not just what we did in this game today, but from what we've learned from the whole season. I think the introduction of a ball-playing CDM next to Mainu and Bruno really unlocks the team, and also we need to start playing these more technical, intricate players. And these sorts of players tend to be those who weren't getting a lot of minutes during the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer era, or who weren't at the club at the time. Now, if we're going to let Rafael Varane go, which I'm not a fan of us doing, we have to also think about letting go of some of these big players who have underperformed this season and would prevent us from playing the stylish football that we've seen today. Hopefully we can get those 3 points against Brighton, but all eyes are currently on the FA Cup final. We need a lot of players back for then, so hopefully we can win that as well.